Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alright, hello everyone. I want to get right in it today, and today I'm bringing you some romance recommendations with chronic pain. Now, I have done previously I think 3 or 4 recommendations that have different disability representation in them of all kinds, and I will absolutely link those. Today, I wanted to focus on different types of chronic pain, which, depending on your definition, depending on the type of it, those can even be considered disabilities as well, depending on how literally debilitating the pain can be. And often the ones I'll be talking about today can even be like invisible types of disabilities, right? Because chronic pain, I think a lot of us who suffer with it, it's not able to be seen. And so we suffer with a lot of shame. We suffer with a lot of people not understanding what it is. And it's even only literally this year that I've started to include myself within an us of someone who has chronic pain. I really have pushed it off of myself and, really never claimed it. And not even because of a shame thing, not because, I was afraid of having it, but honestly because I didn't think the symptoms that I had or what I was suffering with had the right to be considered as debilitating as what I've seen some of my loved ones suffer with. Because one of the things that I feel blessed is the wrong word, because I don't feel blessed that my friends have to suffer with it. I feel honored that they've shared their experiences with me and that it's made me more aware of things. But I have friends who have shared their struggles with me and their illnesses with me. And a lot of their illnesses come with chronic pain that they suffer with constantly. And I just felt like my chronic pain was nowhere at what their level was, so I couldn't possibly have something that rose to the level of that. But at the end of 2025, I, started taking medication for my migraines, and the fact that I finally did that because it was causing, such significant problems in, I wouldn't say my full-on day-to-day life, and that's kind of the, part of it for me that why I felt like I couldn't claim that label or that diagnosis of it, which again, I don't even have fully an official diagnosis for this, which is why I also struggle with it. Anyway, don't gotta fully go into that. I've talked about this more deeply on my Patreon, and I have mentioned it in other videos too, when I've talked about disabilities, or earlier this year when I was struggling with brain fog because of the medication I got put on for that chronic pain. I think one of the things for me is because there's also the threat of an onset of a migraine happening at any time that also can feel debilitating in another way. Is like you change how you live your life because you're afraid of it happening. But even so, I know that I'm very lucky, as it were, that I can mitigate my symptoms pretty easily. And now this medication I've been on has even limited the amount that I have even more so. But one of the things that reading has allowed for me is to step into the shoes of people who are suffering with chronic pain that I can't even imagine. And speaking with my friends and also reading books with own voices and learning about these different types of chronic pain people live with truly proves to me that, I don't know. That's the wrong way to put it. It just makes me think that there are so many invisible things that people are living with, and we might know that, but if you haven't experienced it, I'm so happy for you. Like, truly, I'm so happy for you, because once you're someone who has had any type of pain, and maybe it's only for a short time, right? Maybe it's only for a short time of your life, or maybe you're someone who's had it your entire life and you've only been through periods where you've had it at lesser to greater degrees. You generally aren't someone who's ever going to wish that on your worst enemy, because you know just how mentally and physically taxing it is on your life, right? And it wasn't until, last year when I was like, why am I continuing to suffer with this? Why don't I just talk to my doctor about it and stop, just trying to negate it when it happens? Why don't I try some preventative measures to see if it's possible? And in part, and I haven't really shared this part, it's because of a book I read, which was a super extreme version of what I had, where the character legitimately wants to end her life because of her migraines, is seriously considering it because of how much pain she's in. And there, within the story, is a preventative medication that she takes that I'm like, that's a thing you can do? And mine are nowhere near what they are in this story, that I thought about asking about it, right? I've never actually said that. That's one of the reasons why I recommend this book so much, which we're going to talk about in this video. So anyway, that is more of an intro to this than I meant to give. That just kind of spilled out of me, but it's why I'm really passionate about this. It's why I want to be as supportive of my friends as I can, because again, I'm not diminishing the pain that I have. That is something that I own, and it's something that has made me appreciate my pain-free days so much. Like, I feel so much more alive in the days that I have that, because I know there's people who aren't as blessed as me, that they live with their chronic pain every day and every moment of their lives. And they just live in this life that it's of varying degrees of pain, where I can go the 95% of my life and not have pain at all. And it's only the 5% where it's a pain that I can't do anything. Which still, that 5% is enough to make you want to, pardon me, but make you want to remove my head. I don't want to end myself the way the character in the book did, but I wish to remove my head for a time so I didn't have to feel the pain that it's in, right? And that's hard to explain to someone until they have chronic pain, or like some people who have, different pains in different areas. You wish to remove that part of you, or remove yourself from living, because of how great the pain is. And even if you seem fine and everything seems great on the outside, that doesn't mean you aren't living with something extremely agonizing. And it wasn't until I have chronic pains of my own that I started to understand how people could truly understand addictions and things. As a 32-year-old, I finally started to realize that, even though I thought I was compassionate towards people with addictions or people with chronic pain, I thought I was. Now I truly am, because when I hear about people stuck in the cycle of something, or I hear about, oh, they went through this or that, I'm like, you don't know what led them to that. You just do not know. Unless you've walked through it, you just do not know. And then one final thing, I was already planning to make this video. I already had these ones picked out and everything. And then there was this post that got shared yesterday by how the World Health Organization does have migraines listed as a, qualified disease or condition now. And I don't have the whole thing in front of me. If I remember, I'll share a picture of the post, the person who shared it. And that also just sat with me really heavily, because I was like, yeah, it was just so validating, right? So anyway, how I'm going to do this video, I have 9 recommendations for this one. And like I said, I'm trying to focus on chronic pain. So I ended up in pairs with things. So I have 5 different conditions, pairs of 2 of these. I have migraines, EDS. I have just general chronic pain that come from an injury that happened at some point in the character's life. And then I also have a limp from a traumatic injury that has become a chronic pain. And then one character with lupus, which comes with chronic pain. So those are what I'm going to be covering in here. And again, besides migraines, I don't have, that isn't my lived experience. So please check the reviews on how fully accurate it might be. I'm not saying just because I'm giving these recs that they automatically make them perfectly accurate representations of the of the condition that is represented. You know, I don't want to say that. I know at least for a few of them, they are owned voices, and I'll call out the ones that I know. But for the others, you can do your own research if having it be owned voices is particularly important to you. But otherwise, you can check the reviews to see what other people with that chronic illness have shared about it, because in general, you'll find that there. But these are all ones that, well, there's only one on here, and I'll point it out, that I didn't actually enjoy it, but I enjoyed the representation in it, and that's why I put it in here. But otherwise, all of these are ones that I like the representation and I enjoyed them. So that's enough. That was a 10-minute intro. I'm so sorry. But the actual recs, I'm going to go through a little bit quickly because I just today don't have time to do full deep dive on those. But anyway, like I said, I will link those. I also will link a few creators down below if I can remember, who I know they themselves have chronic illness because they've talked about it on their channel, so I'm not outing anyone who has. But I know my friends Tori, my friend Crystal, my friend Jess, they all have different chronic illnesses, and they have done rec videos for good rep. Oh, also my friend Avery, and they really focus on doing good recs for those illnesses that they have, which is great. So, okay, let's go ahead and get into these. And I'm not really doing them by illness order, we'll just go through. But I'm going to start with the one that, as I said, is the book that got me to look into preventative medication, because I didn't know that was a thing. And I, again, had just really been about, oh, what I'm having isn't fully migraines, they're just bad headaches. But I was having to curl up on the couch for 1 to 2 to 3 days at a time when I would get these, and I couldn't have it be too quiet, I couldn't have it be too loud, I couldn't drink water, I couldn't down the pills, I was nauseous, my body hurt to the touch, and I'm like, that's not a normal headache, that's not a hangover, that's not, I don't even drink anymore, like, you know, it was none of those things. And it wasn't until I read this, which I know this one is actually Own Voices, and this is a book, as I said, I've recommended it so many times since I read it, but I don't think I've actually told anyone that it's because of this book that soon afterwards, when I had my checkup, I asked my doctor, are there any types of preventative meds? And I didn't need to go to the extreme that is done in this book, but I'm on a preventative because of this book. And that is The Ecstasy of Sin by Kay Allister. And again, I know this is Own Voices. Kay has shared that. But in this book, it starts off with Ren, who I also love because my niece's name is Ren. Always love when I find a book like that. But what is, heavy about this is that this is set in, I believe it is set in Canada, and there is this application there where you can get an assisted suicide here. So there is a trigger warning for suicidal ideation, but it's also in a place where you can apply to have that happen. And she's in a really tight spot where she is unhoused and needs money for her migraine medication, but can't keep a job long enough to make enough money to get the medication, which is just so devastating when I was reading this. But she first meets the hero, which in here I believe it is, sorry, I always forget his name. Of course, Dominic. Okay. I knew it was one of the Italian names that I always get. She ends up running into him at a clinic, and he becomes obsessed with her. And one of the things I love about him is he ends up, she leaves her backpack behind, and he finds her application for the assisted suicide, and he tears it up and throws it away because he's like, that's not happening. And then he buys all the medication she needs, puts it in her backpack. I think even puts some food and snacks in her backpack, and then gets it brought back to her at the shelter she's staying at. And then he just starts stalking her and looking out for her. And eventually, he makes his move and kind of kidnaps her, because it's still a dark romance, right? I'm not saying that this is a healthy relationship. I just really like the migraine representation in here. And I love how he is very much a dark stalking caretaker of her, let's just say. So anyway, but yeah, just wanted to bring this one up because of how meaningful it was to me. I'm not saying it's a perfect story, but I love this. Kay is also a friend of the channel, so I read a very early copy of this. And Kay, if you're watching, because I'm sure she'll see that I did a chronic illness one, this book meant so much to me, and you know that. We've talked about it. I can't wait for the next book in this series. Oh my gosh, take your time though. But I can't wait for the next book in this series. And I've just, yeah, it just means so much to me because it's really, this book changed my life in a little way because it made me accept that though, you know, my chronic illness, it's still mine. It's not the same as anyone else's. It doesn't have to be. I'm glad it's not as extreme, that it's as debilitating as this. I'm very, very thankful that it's not. However, that doesn't mean it's still not real, and it doesn't mean it still doesn't affect my life. You know, why does it have to be so extreme to be visible to other people that it's still valid, right? And that is just like, that's something I've heard my friends say so many times through the years, and it doesn't click in your head until it's real for you. And I wish, so desperately that you're able to communicate that to people easier, but what can you do? Okay, I gotta move along because I have a hard limit with this one. So let's go to the other migraine. Let's go kind of by the illness. So the other one that had migraine rep is actually where the hero has migraine, which I thought was really interesting because the only other time I'd really seen where like the male character had migraines was when it had been from like CTE, or CTE would be really extreme, but like from concussions or like they were healing from something. But a recent read of mine, which, okay, so this is the one that I want to be transparent. I don't really love the romance fully, but I liked that he got migraines in here and I like the rep for that. So this was Frozen Heart by Neva Altai, and this was her most recent release. And I actually will have my full review of this up. When is this one? This is Saturday's video. So Sunday I will have my full review of this because I just finished this one last week. And I didn't love this romance in this one, but he gets migraines. Now for him, they are partially psychosomatic, so not quite the same as like chronic, but I liked how they were handled in here where, you know, he would get them at really inconvenient times, and they kind of end up tied with his trauma from when he was young. So they're kind of tied up with PTSD as well. And he ends up discovering that spending time with the heroine helps but helps relieve his migraines. But really, when you read through the story, a lot of it has to do with the fact that like she helps de-stress him. And he's taking a lot of, thankfully he's not doing like hard drugs, but he's taking a lot of, as a lot of us do, to help with migraines. He's taking a lot of, you know, over-the-counter meds and things to try to help it. And you can only take so many of those. And if it's not working, it's not working. He also does have a therapist in this one. But it is interesting because, you know, since he's a mafia guy, his therapist, you know, can only make so much progress with him if he's not willing to be honest about certain things in here. So anyway, Frozen Heart does have migraine rep, and it is the hero who has it. The heroine, I should mention her just briefly though. Her name is Iris, and she actually works in the home of one of the other mafia bosses. And I was excited about this because Iris works for Don Spada, who is the hero in my favorite Neva Altai, which is Sweet Prison. So I thought I would like this one a bit more, and I ended up not liking it as much as I wanted to, but that's okay. It was still pretty good, and a lot of other people are liking it. But again, doing the rep for chronic illness, and I like that he was the one who had it. Okay. Then let's move on to the EDS. Okay, so these two are also pretty well-known ones. So we have another mafia one here. And this one is Hypermobile EDS or HEDS, and this is his Tesoro. And I love this one because it has wheelchair representation. This one also did just get a trad pub release, which I love even more. But I do have the gorgeous release from the author, the special edition here too. I have a signed copy from her, which is beautiful. But yeah, this one is an arranged marriage between a Bratva princess who her father has kind of kept her a secret because he sees her condition as a shame to him. And then she gets married to Matteo, who is an Italian mob boss. He doesn't care that she has this condition. He just would have liked to know so he could have been more accommodating to his new bride. So, I mean, he already doesn't think much of her father. And now he really doesn't think much of him, that he hadn't been looking out for his daughter, hadn't even gotten her a proper chair or proper care. So once she is within his house, he really begins to take care of her. I also really liked the rep in here of a sex aid that's used. There is a like sex pillow and cushions that are used to make sex more comfortable for her in this one. Really love that. Talked more in depth about that one in others. Also one that, if I am correct, I believe this one is also HEDS. I meant to write it down and then I didn't because I was rushed to make this one. But of course, Fourth Wing. I believe that is what Violet has in here as well. Now, it's not, of course, called that because it's in fantasy, but I believe the author has confirmed that that is the condition that Violet is supposed to have. And I just think it's so cool that it was depicted in a fantasy world. And, you know, yes, the ideas of, you know, magic being used to be kind of the aid for her. Some people don't love that. Well, I mean, wouldn't we all wish that we could have magical aids for different disabilities that we have? Of course you would, if it was possible. In the same way we would have medicine to help us where it can, right? So anyway, this is one people, of course, often recommend, but maybe you didn't know that as well because it doesn't get brought up as much. Okay, then two that have limps because of trauma from severe injury, okay? So one of these is the Tyrant Alpha's rejected mate. So we have the heroine Una, who is considered the, why did you bring up the freaking German edition? That is annoying. But Una was in a tragic event when she was young, which has caused her to have kind of a mangled left leg. And so this causes her extreme pain and almost a limb difference all the time. And so she's considered weak and not a proper mate for anyone. But unfortunately for the Alpha, she's meant to be his mate. And his wolf doesn't give two shits about whether she is having this condition or not. And if he won't get his head out of his ass and claim her properly, there will be repercussions for everyone. So I will say Kate C. Wells, she really pulls out the angst in her stories. So be prepared for that. Absolutely. Then another one, and this is a throwback, but when I was looking up some chronic pain or issues, this one got remembered to me, and I immediately remembered how much I loved it when I first read it. I read this, you know, quite a few years back now. And it is The Sum of All Kisses by Julia Quinn. And this is Hugh Prentice, and he has a leg that is injured from a duel that he was in many years ago, and it has left it never healed right, and so he has to use a cane, and the muscles are pretty mangled, so he's in a lot of pain from that. But this romance between them, I believe it is, but I know that like his limp and his like the pain to his leg is a huge part of the story because it's left him feeling unmanly, inadequate, that he can't live a normal life. He can't do the things he wants. So to me, that really, you know, kind of qualifies as it's affecting his life. It's affecting his day-to-day. And so, you know, it's more of a bit more of a physical hindrance as well, but it also is a lot in his head as well. And that's something that Sarah really helps him through. So that one's a bit of kind of both in that sense. Okay, then one other one that is both like physical and pain as well is My Darling Duke, because it is something that they work through as well. Like I said, I wanted some of these to not just be physical disabilities, but also be like pain and mental as well. And so we have My Darling Duke by Stacey Reed. This is one that, you know, many people will bring up for a physical disability as well. But it's one that Alexander Masters, the Duke of Thornton, he is also in like physical pain from a carriage accident, I believe he was in, and it's left him paralyzed. He doesn't think he'll be able to have an heir. He hasn't had any, you know, use of his manly parts. And we have Miss Catherine Danvers, who she's made a pretty desperate ploy and said that she's like engaged to him. And so she ends up going to stay with him, and he agrees to kind of play along with the engagement for a little while. And he's kind of like angry that she's done this, but then once she's said they're engaged, but he actually shows up, which he never leaves his estate. And so he ends up showing up, and now she has to kind of pay the piper with him being there, and now actually demanding that she like be his fiance and everything. So I really love these two together though, and I like it too because it isn't a miraculous healing, even though this is one where I will say like I don't know how else to word it, his libido does come back through the story. He isn't just magically healed where he can just always do everything every day now. Like there's still, you know, there was traumatic pain to his like spine and things like that. And I like how it's handled in here with, it's still going to be a long road, but also maybe he gave up a bit too quickly with those things. So again, this one's also kind of a mix of both. All right. Then I wanted to include, this is one where a car accident caused chronic pain. So we have Scarlett Dubois, who was in a car accident that cut her prima ballerina career short, but she's still able to be a teacher. And then there's Asher Donovan, who is a footballer, and he ends up needing to like be trained by Scarlett. And also she is the sister of his like rival on the team. They like have to work together and stuff like that. But he also likes fast cars, and he likes to race kind of illegally. So there's also that clash between, she was hurt in a car crash, he likes to race and be reckless illegally. But yeah, her accident, she doesn't have any physical deformities from it. Deformity is the wrong thing. Long-lasting disabilities from it, but she has chronic pain, and she also has some PTSD from the accident. So I liked how that was handled in here. And then the final one, this is the one with lupus, and that is Real by Kennedy Ryan. I had never seen any representation of lupus before. Reading this, I thought it was just so beautiful. Again, I can't speak to how it was handled or what was done, but this is an actress. This is an actress and a director, their romance, and it also has her getting the role of a lifetime while simultaneously her disease, which has many different symptoms that eventually lead her to needing a like transplant, her chronic pain and everything. She's finally getting this role she wants, and she's trying to push down and hide the pain, which is then getting accelerated by the stress and the attention and everything that she is, you know, she's getting everything she wants, but what is she putting her body through? What will be left at the end of this performance of a lifetime if she doesn't also take care of herself? So this is a beautiful story. I can't wait to read Score. I really do want to read the next one. But man, do I wish we had a matching cover to this one. Gosh, do I wish that was so. But there we go. Those are my recommendations for chronic pain. And a few, like I said, are from accidents and are some disabilities as well. But those are some that I have. Please share yours down below, especially if they are for chronic pain or illnesses that you have, so that we can share some that you feel are accurate to you. And yeah, thank you so, so much for watching. And just know, whatever you are struggling with, it is valid, it is real. Don't let anyone gaslight you out of it. And sending you all the love today, and I'll see you next time.